Have you ever wondered why your life feels chaotic, no matter how hard you try to control it? Why moments of peace seem so brief, or why you still feel trapped, even when everything on the outside looks fine? Here's the truth. Freedom isn't found in success, wealth, or applause. It's forged in the quiet battles you fight within. The ancient Stoics knew this long before psychology caught up. If you're someone who's tired of surface-level fixes and ready for deep, lasting change, this video is for you. We'll uncover a simple, powerful formula that can transform your life. Discipline, mastery, freedom. But before we dive in, if you're serious about building a stronger, calmer, wiser version of yourself, hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started. 1. Discipline, the foundation of inner power. Discipline is where it all begins. It's not about rigid routines or punishing yourself. It's about committing to the kind of life you say you want, day in, day out. That commitment isn't glamorous. It doesn't always feel inspiring, but it's honest, it's raw, and it's the only thing standing between you and the person you claim you want to become. Most people confuse discipline with control or strictness, but it's more about alignment, aligning your actions with your deeper values. If you say you want peace, then your habits should reflect peace. If you say you want strength, then your habits should reflect perseverance, not comfort-seeking. Discipline forces you to confront the dissonance between what you profess and what you practice. And that confrontation, though uncomfortable, is the birthplace of change. The Stoics taught that discipline is the gateway to wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Not flashy ideas, but deep virtues you live out moment by moment. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to wake up and do the work of a human being. He wasn't just writing beautiful thoughts, he was reinforcing a lifestyle of virtue in the middle of stress, illness, and political pressure. Epictetus, once a slave, taught that no external condition could touch the inner fortress if a person practiced daily discipline. That kind of training doesn't happen overnight. It happens in quiet, repeated choices, resisting gossip, controlling your temper, showing up with integrity when no one is watching. Discipline isn't something you do, it's someone you become through repetition and resilience. This means journaling when you'd rather scroll, reflecting when you'd rather react, choosing your principles over your impulses. These are not dramatic, life-altering moments on the surface, but over time, they compound. They shape your emotional posture. They make you stronger than your moods and habits. Discipline is tested when you're tired, when you've had a bad day, when nobody would blame you for slacking off. But those are the moments that build the internal muscle memory of virtue. That's how you start winning quietly, by refusing to betray your higher self, even when it's inconvenient. You don't have to shout it, you just keep showing up. Without discipline, everything else collapses. You can't reach mastery, let alone freedom, if you don't first train the mind to obey your higher self. Talent doesn't matter if it isn't directed. Inspiration fades if it isn't reinforced. Ideas remain abstract unless they're drilled into the body through repeated action. Discipline is what closes the gap between theory and transformation. You don't meditate because it's trendy. You do it because you want to sharpen your awareness. You don't resist temptation because it's easy. You do it because you respect yourself. And when that self-respect grows, it becomes unshakable. Discipline is the soil where the tree of virtue grows, and without it, your philosophy dies the moment life gets hard. 2. Mastery, becoming the philosophy. Mastery isn't about being perfect, it's about transformation. It's the shift from simply understanding Stoic ideas to living them under pressure. You stop asking, what would a Stoic do? Because you've internalized the response. It becomes muscle memory. Mastery is when your principles no longer need to be summoned. They emerge instinctively. You don't have to remind yourself to stay calm. You are calm. You don't try to detach from external outcomes. You've stopped clinging to them altogether. Mastery isn't flashy. It's subtle, quiet, and often invisible to outsiders. But inside, there's a powerful shift from performing the philosophy to embodying it. Anyone can sound wise in a calm moment, but true mastery shows itself when you're insulted and stay grounded. When plans fall apart and you remain steady, that's where the difference lies. Reading Seneca while sipping coffee is easy, but can you recall his wisdom when someone betrays you, when your project fails, when your heart breaks? That's the battlefield of real growth, and you won't always pass the test. But every failure becomes data. Every reaction becomes feedback. You don't beat yourself up. You observe, refine, and recommit. Mastery means using each moment of life, especially the uncomfortable ones, as a dojo for training the soul. Setbacks aren't failures in this stage. They're fuel. Every emotional slip becomes a lesson. Every moment of resistance becomes a test. Mastery isn't smooth sailing. It's a deeper engagement with adversity. You start to welcome discomfort because it shows you where you still have work to do. You no longer avoid the difficult conversation or the moment of silence. You go toward them because you know that's where your character is forged. Every argument, delay, or disappointment becomes an invitation, not to control the external, but to govern your internal reaction. And the more you do that, the more natural it becomes. This is where your habits evolve from external effort to natural expression. You're no longer trying to be disciplined. You are disciplined. There's no need for rigid rules anymore because the values are inside you. The mind has become trained. The will has become sharpened. It's not about perfection or performance. It's about integration. Your thoughts, words, and actions are aligned. That's the real meaning of harmony. And when you operate from that place, you not only become resilient, you become magnetic. People feel your presence. They trust your stability. Not because you preach, but because you are the philosophy in motion. 3. Freedom, the real kind. What is freedom, really? The Stoics had a radical answer. Freedom is not escaping hardship. It's escaping enslavement to your emotions, your cravings, your fears. The world tells us that freedom means having more time, more money, more choices. But the Stoics taught that real freedom means needing less. It means not being dominated by the ups and downs of life. It means being unshaken in a storm, calm in the face of chaos. It's not about changing the world around you. It's about changing the way you meet the world inside yourself. And that shift is liberating beyond anything external. Real freedom is calm in the face of chaos. It's clarity when life tries to confuse you. It's strength when the world expects you to break. You're no longer swayed by praise or shattered by criticism. You're not constantly performing for acceptance or permission. That doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop being ruled by those feelings. Emotions come and go, but your center holds firm. That's freedom. When others are reactive, you're thoughtful. When others are drowning in drama, you're anchored. You don't run from difficulty. You face it with clear eyes and steady hands. You've trained for this. When you reach this stage, you're no longer reacting, you're responding. You live in a state of autonomy, ruled not by the world, but by your own reason and virtue. This is the essence of Stoic sovereignty. You don't hand your peace over to circumstances, to other people, to fleeting outcomes. You live as an inner citadel, a phrase Marcus Aurelius used to describe the mind fortified by truth and discipline. From this space, life becomes lighter. Not because it's easy, but because you've stopped struggling against it. You accept what is, while choosing who you will be in every moment. That's real freedom. This isn't fantasy, it's ataraxia, peace of mind. It's aponia, freedom from distress. It's what the Stoics saw as the ultimate human achievement. Not fame, not comfort, not control, but inner tranquility. Imagine moving through the world without being constantly hijacked by anxiety, bitterness, or ego. Imagine being content with less, graceful under pressure, and grateful regardless of outcomes. That is what the Stoic path offers, not as an escape from life, but as a deeper entry into it. Because when your peace is no longer dependent on what happens outside, you've won a kind of freedom that can never be taken from you. 4. The chain of growth. One stage feeds the next. Discipline leads to mastery. Mastery leads to freedom. But this path isn't linear. It's a loop, a cycle that deepens over time. Too many people imagine personal growth as a staircase you climb and never descend. In reality, it's more like a spiral staircase. You revisit the same core principles: discipline, effort, reflection, but each time from a higher vantage point. Discipline doesn't disappear once you've achieved mastery. It evolves. The same practices that helped you begin are required in more refined forms to sustain and expand what you've built. Mastery isn't a fixed state. It breathes, it regresses, it reforms. And freedom, it's not the absence of structure, but the result of internalizing that structure so deeply it becomes effortless. That's the paradox. Freedom is found within the form, not beyond it. Think of it like education. You start with basics, you repeat, you fail, you refine, and eventually it becomes who you are. Imagine learning to write. At first, you struggle to hold the pen. You fumble with grammar, spelling, flow. Over time, repetition carves muscle memory into your fingers and clarity into your thoughts. You internalize form. Eventually, writing becomes not something you do, but part of who you are. The same principle applies to self-discipline, emotional control, and ethical clarity. Each begins with awkward practice. Each passes through phases of self-doubt, resistance, and false starts. Yet those failures are not detours, they are the actual road. In refinement, failure becomes feedback, and repetition becomes ritual. This is where transformation happens, not in sudden flashes of inspiration, but in the slow burn of commitment. Even when you reach moments of mastery or experience inner freedom, you will return to discipline, because each level you rise to demands a sharper version of your former self. The idea that growth has an endpoint is one of the most dangerous illusions. You may conquer one layer of fear, only to discover another behind it. You may gain discipline over your habits, but now must apply that same discipline to how you lead others, how you endure pressure, or how you face uncertainty. Each threshold of success reveals a new layer of responsibility. Mastery doesn't exempt you from discipline. It increases the stakes. It calls you to act with greater integrity, precision, and humility. Freedom from old vices only opens you up to new challenges. In that way, discipline is not a phase. It's a companion. You don't outgrow it, you grow with it. This isn't a formula to finish, it's a lifestyle to embody. Treating personal development like a checklist guarantees eventual disillusionment, because there's no completion when it comes to becoming who you're meant to be. The moment you think you've arrived, life will humble you with a new demand. The beauty of this cycle is that it never stops offering more depth, more clarity, more refinement. You live the formula, it lives through you. Discipline, mastery, and freedom are not stages you visit. They are virtues you host. And if you stay loyal to the process, they begin to shape not only your actions but your identity. That's when growth becomes irreversible, not because you've finished, but because you've made it your way of life. 5. Application and research, bridging philosophy and science. This formula isn't just a spiritual ideal, it aligns closely with modern science. Increasingly, we're seeing ancient wisdom validated by contemporary research. What once lived only in the realm of philosophical reflection is now supported by robust empirical studies. The Stoic cycle of discipline, mastery, and freedom is not merely poetic. It reflects how the human brain, behavior, and identity function. Self-discipline, for instance, is closely tied to executive function in neuroscience, the part of the brain responsible for planning, impulse control, and sustained attention. Mastery aligns with psychological states like flow and competence, key pillars in self-determination theory. And freedom, rather than an abstract concept, corresponds to autonomy, our ability to choose and act in alignment with our values. The bridge between Stoicism and science isn't metaphorical anymore, it's measurable. Behavioral psychology tells us habits shape identity. Stoicism figured that out over 2,000 years ago. The daily journaling and reflection the Stoics practiced, now backed by neuroscience as tools for emotional regulation and cognitive restructuring. Studies in behavioral psychology have shown that repeated behaviors over time become internalized as part of a person's identity. This aligns directly with Epictetus's idea, we are what we repeatedly do. Journaling, once seen as mere reflection, is now recognized as a neural exercise. MRI scans show that expressive writing helps shift activity from the amygdala, the brain's emotional center, to the prefrontal cortex, the rational center, allowing individuals to process stress more clearly. Practices like mindfulness, once embedded in Stoic reflection, now appear in clinical psychology to treat anxiety, depression, and trauma. Stoicism anticipated these methods, not through laboratories but through introspection, rigor, and lived experience. And now, science is catching up. In education, this structure maps perfectly onto moral development and virtue ethics. It even offers researchers a replicable model for character education. The Stoic cycle has strong implications for education and ethical training. Lawrence Kohlberg's stages of moral development show a progression from obedience-based ethics to autonomous moral reasoning. Similarly, Stoicism teaches students to move from external rules to internal virtue. Character education programs today, from primary schools to military academies, are integrating these frameworks: discipline in early stages, mastery through guided practice, and eventual autonomy and moral freedom. This progression mirrors what the ancients called becoming wise. The model is not only theoretical, it can be replicated, tested, and improved. With more institutions focused on whole-person development, the Stoic cycle offers a comprehensive scaffold. But like all models, it has limits. Some may oversimplify emotional complexity, culture and personality matter, and we still need more empirical testing. It's important not to romanticize the Stoic model as a catch-all solution. Human experience is messy. Emotional depth can't always be disciplined away. Cultural norms vary, and what's seen as virtuous in one society may be viewed differently in another. Personality types, introverts, empaths, neurodivergent individuals may require alternate approaches to discipline or freedom. And while neuroscience and psychology support many Stoic insights, the field still needs larger longitudinal studies to confirm cause and effect. The danger lies in oversimplification, treating this cycle as a cure-all rather than a compass. Science is rigorous for a reason, and while Stoicism provides the structure, it must be tested, adapted, and expanded responsibly. Still, this isn't theory without teeth. It's a living framework waiting to be tested, refined, and lived. Despite its limits, the Stoic formula remains uniquely practical. It offers a rare blend of moral vision and actionable steps, habits that can be measured, behaviors that can be trained, values that can be lived. Unlike abstract theories of change, it provides a daily rhythm. Wake early, reflect, act justly. Train the will, revisit your day. These aren't lofty ideals, they are living tools. And whether you're a teacher, therapist, coach, or parent, You can implement them. That's what makes this framework enduring. It doesn't just ask what kind of person you want to be. It gives you a map to become them. So where are you right now? Are you building discipline, trying to embody mastery, or searching for freedom? Wherever you are, know this: growth is possible. The Stoic path is not for the faint of heart, but it's the surest way to true inner power. Remember, discipline is the beginning, mastery is the transformation, freedom is the reward. If this resonates with you, share it. Start journaling, reflect daily, study the Stoics, and most importantly, live it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and take this formula with you, not just in your mind, but in your character.